Good. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Thank you for providing us the opportunity to present our information and discuss with you our findings. I hope we can have a worthwhile discussion. My name is Klaas Wassens. I'm the Executive Director of the part-time Master Bedrijfskunde program. We work with Erasmus University, especially the Rotterdam School of Management, Erasmus University, the Business School of Erasmus University. Let me briefly mention where we're from. Our faculty has about 8,600 students, 30,000 alumni, 30 research centers, and about 200 researchers and 90 PhDs. I wrote it up because I didn't know those numbers by heart. So we are very much a research-driven business school. This is a picture of our new campus. We're very proud of it. By the way, read the Financial Times. Next Monday, there's some good news on our ranking position to be mentioned next week. This is the issue. The part-time Master Bedrijfskunde usually has about 100 plus participants. This is post-experience education. Participants have to pay a considerable amount of money to attend. And it is part of the income that drives our activity. So going down in numbers is really not a good message for our school. At first we thought this is the recession, 2008, it will pick up. But by the time it was 2013, we thought 49 is not sustainable. So we lost to our competition, which is, a scary fact for us because we think we are very good. So we don't want others to pick that first position. And so we came together as a team and said, look, if we hit the 30 or even the 40, the management of our school might think, we might need to stop this program because it's outdated, it's traditional, people prefer an MBA on top of an MSc BA. So we said, we need to change. And so we started discussing, how can we improve our program? And we've, of course, thought about using digital technology to improve. This is what our ambitions was, and this is what the outcomes were. We decided that instead of asking our participants to come to Rotterdam about 108 times in the course of 2 years, which is what we ask our participants to do, we thought to squeeze out 25% of face-to-face, just as a criteria. And we thought of offering online elements, a kind of a vague term to acknowledge that we are not sure how to fill that additional gap. And of course maintain quality and learning goals. Now, the outcome I already mentioned, we grew in student numbers 26%, which is good. We also realized a modest growth of participants from outside the Rotterdam region. It's an evening program, so people have to travel to Rotterdam twice or sometimes 3 times a week, which is a considerable effort anyway, given the traffic jams around Rotterdam occasionally. The other outcomes are possibly even more important, which is now faculty interested in online education, paying attention to didactics, many times for the first time ever, focus on infrastructure, and a really good program that we can be very proud of. So let me tell you about our journey and what the additional outcomes are and the learnings that are in there. This is the map of our small country. This is where our students come from. You see that some of them, this is Maastricht, Venlo, the south of Holland, really travel extensively to go to Rotterdam and take classes. In the class that started in September, there's someone from Groningen, which is up north, and she takes the train for 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get to Rotterdam twice a week. So, I mean, travel time indeed is an issue. And we wanted to limit that. Can you imagine that you have to travel 108 times to Rotterdam in the course of 2 years? This is the program design. It's part-time evening. It takes 2 years. It has about 20 courses. It involves 30 faculty. Most of the sessions take about 10 evening sessions to accomplish. So we required our faculty to squeeze out 3 sessions and go from 10 to 7 or 8. That's what we want them to do. We started with the project in January 2015 and successively changed or improved or adapted all the semesters, all the courses in different semesters. So we're now at almost January 2017 and in the 3rd iteration of the program in its improved version. The choice that we made is not to require from our faculty to use a particular technology, not to use a particular didactical model. We gave them the freedom to find their own solution. Which meant that they used all kinds of different solutions to accomplish that 25% squeezing out of face-to-face. And we did it because we wanted the faculty to decide on themselves and remain ownership of their courses. Which also means that now we have experience, some experience at least, with all of those activities that we can draw upon for other future programs as well. Our experiences were varied a bit, I think. We experienced some technical problems as well. I can still remember the innovation faculty member trying to do online lecturing on a Monday evening, where our IT department chose to do a software update on the same time, jeopardizing our courses, running into problems, something that you learn along the way. We also had some benefits because Erasmus University has its own television studio, which we could draw upon. I didn't know of that, but it was very useful. The challenge is for faculty to accomplish the same learning objectives with less face-to-face time, and some of them really struggle trying to fill the remaining sessions with the original content, which is of course putting a lot of pressure on the participants. These are our learnings. Remember, this is an existing program with 30+ faculty, with a lot of traditional or a bit of history in how faculty want to teach their courses. So if you want to change a program, an existing program, articulate an undeniable need. For us, it was the student numbers. For others, it can be something else. Provide incentives. We, in our school, we pay, say, paper money. We move around, say, budgets to allow faculty to spend time on any particular activity. If you don't do that, faculty are very hesitant to innovate because it takes time, as we saw this morning, and they have lots of other activities to perform. So there needs to be incentives around this. You need to consult, communicate, and involve. You can't do this top-down. You have to talk with educational board, with coordinators, with capacity groups, with individual faculty, with a lot of people. It takes time, but it's necessary because you want to communicate carefully, transparently about what you want to accomplish. And you need to have as much of them involved if you start. I would suggest that you choose anything goes, not dictate anything up front. In this conference, we have seen many faculty using different routines, different mixes of technologies, and I think that's an example of the autonomy of faculty in their course, and I think that's a good thing. We should remain that. You need to have high quality support. Bas is one of the innovation e-learning team. He worked a lot with us. I mean, you really need those didactical people, technical people to do a good job. And then share and celebrate. RSM is now very pleased with this, not only for the numbers, but also for the experience that we have in this area. So, after a while, we found ourselves with a new class of 82 people the next year. In September, we started another program with 107 new applicants. To be honest, I think those numbers were reached not only through innovation on the program design, but also, I think, on putting a lot of effort on marketing and sales and organizing it well. But I do think that innovation really helps. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go straight on to Bas and his side of the story, and then we'll take questions for either colleague at the end of the session.
Okay. So, hello everyone, my name is Bas Giesbers. I'm a member of the Learning Innovation team of RSM. So as Klaas already mentioned, we worked on the part-time Master in Business program, but there's also another program that I would like to tell you about, which is a program for customs professionals. One of the godfathers of the customs program, Martin Lutterop, also is in the audience. I don't see you now, Martin, but very nice that you are here. So a program especially for customs professionals. Before diving into a certain domain, you have some kind of naive idea of what it is, right? And when I started this, it was like, yeah, what does a customs official do? It has something to do with checking containers in the harbor, etc. Why would you have a program that is aimed at these professionals? What is so special about this group? What you notice is that, like in a lot of domains, also the customs domain changed a lot. So it changed from being a physical activity, like you going to the harbor and checking a container, etc., and having to do primarily with legal issues and fiscal issues. It also, next to the legal issues, also involved supply chain management. You needed to know about supply chain management. You need to know about risk and control. You need to know about IT, as IT invaded almost every aspect of life, also the customs profession. The profession became more complex. And what was noticed in the customs domain, did it work? Yeah. So there were specific education needs, an increasing need to have people who are trained at an academic level on all aspects and a combination of aspects that I just mentioned. So an increased demand in knowledge and expertise. The traditional model was that you have people working in some position at customs and they are trained on the job. This was too slow for the high demand. It didn't work anymore, and there was an increasing competition for graduates in the fiscal or the law areas or European studies. So there was a clear need to train their own people. And train their own people on three main pillars. So the law pillar, the regulations, the supply chain management and logistics, and the third one is the IT pillar and information and compliance, which should then also be integrated. So this is the basic model that lies at at the basis that forms the heart of the program. It's these three pillars with three integration layers. So who are the students then? Well, actually, a student can be everybody, can be anybody who's involved in international cross-border supply chains. So we have students who actually are experts in each one of these three pillars. Some of them have expertise in two. One or two have expertise in three, but mostly are really specialized in one of these pillars. The same goes for the teaching staff. So the program is, well, primarily conducted in a collaboration of 3 universities, so Erasmus, Delft, and Eindhoven. But there are teachers involved from Nyenrode Business University, University of Amsterdam, but also 3 big consulting firms who have a lot of experience in the customs domain, in supply chain, logistics, and of course the Dutch customs, the Netherlands Customs Administration themselves. So what would one of the main challenges for these kind of programs be? It's a professional program. Like, you know, it's work-life balance. You have students who have families, who have demanding jobs, and who also need to study, want to study. The same goes for teaching faculty. They all teach at their own universities, they all work at their own firms, and then they're also teaching in this program. So what we decided to do is to go for a blended format. The program had been running in a previous format which was largely based on face-to-face, residential, but that didn't quite work out for the students. So the innovation in this program, the redesign of this program, was done as such. You have 9 weeks in total. Then the first 6 weeks were used as a preparation period, an online learning period, for a residential period, which typically per course would take 2 to 5 days. So you have 1 week in which you have a residential period, which was followed by typically 2 weeks of preparation for the exam. An exam usually was not residential. An exam takes the form of a take-home exam, an essay, these kind of forms. So typically every course starts with online learning, then you have a residential period, face-to-face, then you have your assessment. So this is the way the program looks. You have a pre-master period at the start to get students prepped to go into the actual master, which is the second big block starting in November 2015, and that actually is the master. So this model goes for is used for most of the courses, except the integration project looks a little bit different, and of course the master thesis looks a little bit different. So okay, now we had this idea, okay, this is the basic building blocks that we want to make our program into. And then Klaas and me at a meeting was like, yeah, but what is our didactic design going to be? And we spent quite some time developing that. We noticed, okay, you have individual factors, and once you have such an extensive online period, it's difficult for students to become self-directed learners and to really keep the pace. It's quite easy to let other aspects of life take over. So we need to do something there. We have the course-related factors, of course, the course structure and the way we wanted students to be autonomous, the way we wanted the flexibility to be incorporated, and of course the competence of the instructor, not only content-wise, but also the ability to teach online and to deal with technology. And everything should be in support of the individual factors, the individual learner. So it all sticks together. So eventually what we came up with was a learning design that in broad terms looked like this. So structure is highly important. Educational research says, okay, autonomy and structure. That is something that you want to really pay attention to. You want the course to be crystal clear, the demands to be crystal clear. Students must know exactly what they need to do right from the start. We chose a modular setup. There are no face-to-face lectures, so we asked teachers to create knowledge clips, which posed them for additional challenges because almost none of them had studio experience. The assessment, formative assessments along the way to give students the idea of their progress. Of course, the summative assessment, as I already indicated, essays, take-home exams, and the communication and social presence aspects. Social presence basically is the way that you can present yourself to other people as being real, as being human. So we incorporated video conferences, feedback sessions, of course the announcements, and discussion groups. So here you see an example of one of the teachers in the studio and the end result of a different teacher in a video. And the Learning Innovation team actually supported this program by devising the Canvas structure. So the learning management system that was used was Canvas. We did that together with the program managers who maintained the system. It was refined at runtime. The knowledge clips, of course, we supported teaching staff in creating these clips, created manuals on what they should do and better not do, how to prepare. And, of course, the video conferences, which also was supported by the program managers. Somebody started them, made sure they were recorded, and our teachers, especially at the beginning, were supported in doing them. So, along the way, we had a number of questions, like, we aimed to set up a community of learning. These students, all with experience in primarily one of the three pillars, to what extent would they integrate? Would they collaborate? Would they talk to each other? Or would they stick to their own pillar and to the people with the same expertise? Another thing is that we noticed that the forums in Canvas were not used extensively. And yet students did manage to organize themselves. So, a typical thought is that, what is happening? We, as a teacher, don't know exactly what is happening. We'd like to know. And a third thing is, how useful is it for practice, for student practice? How useful do they find the program? So we had a questionnaire. I'll basically skip this slide. It had a number of elements here. I won't talk about all of them, so goal orientation I won't talk about here, but the social presence, practical relevance, and the social network, I will. A little bit of background. Of the 27 students that took part in the program, only 16 filled out the questionnaire. We decided to do it paper-based to enlarge the response rate. Well, that worked well. I hoped for a larger response rate, but this already gave an indication for starters to redesign or to adapt certain things in the program. So once asked, is on average, how many hours do you spend in the program? Only one says, well, I only spend 3 hours a week. Two say I spend 5 hours, and most of them say 10 hours or more. On average, 10, almost 11 hours, which is quite nice and something that we'd aim for. With respect to the communication, it's like the question was, what was your preferred mode of communication? And oddly enough, none of the students indicated texting. Most of them say, okay, Canvas. But we saw that the activity was a little bit lower. And then most say WhatsApp. So they organize apparently around WhatsApp groups. The other modes that were used, that were mentioned is personal contact, email, Skype were used twice, were mentioned twice, and telephone. So, okay, how did they perceive the community? We asked them a number of questions about social presence, a number about negative emotions, and a number about sense of community. And these, well, the negative emotions, luckily, are really low. Apparently, they don't experience these too much, so frustration that people don't respond, etc. And the social presence and the sense of community actually are quite high. Kirkpatrick developed a theory around the practical relevance of learning and the applicability of learning. And we asked a number of questions on these. And you see that, well, students indicate to put quite some effort in making the connection between the program, what they're learning and practice. And also the application value, they evaluate as rather high. The one thing that is out of our control is the support they experience from their organization, which is on average reported to be a little bit below average. We also asked them, to what extent do you know the expertise of your peers? So you don't have to have this expertise yourself, but do you know what their area of expertise is? And I divided the respondents into the 3 expert groups, and it might not be very clearly visible, but this is the social network that they scored their peers on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, I don't know the expertise, 5 being the highest. And you see it's quite a dense network. I didn't include the numbers here, but the numbers also indicate that there's it's a highly dense network. The degree of centrality also is very high. And that gives the impression that the triangle, so the supply chain management people are more central. The numbers indicate otherwise. So it's a nicely mixed network, which you can also see. I have a different visualization based on the social network question 2, which is looking back. To what extent did each of these persons, your peers, contribute to your own learning process? So on a scale from 1 to 5, and divided into groups, you see this. There are even more, for some people, even more links between groups than within the groups. And the numbers also indicate that. So, coming to my conclusions, is it's a small group. Only 16 people answered the questionnaire, filled out the questionnaire, so there's no strong causal effects. But the integration of the 3 participant groups, or the 3 expert groups, seems to have worked quite nicely. We have the idea, we have the start of a working community of learning. The second thing is, we have the feeling that we want to control everything and want to know everything. So the whole communication process, etc. And yet students are able to organize themselves. The assessments were made, the group assignments were made. So you should also be willing to let go of some aspects of the program that you offer. Communities are self-organizing. The final point is, with regard to teacher professionalization, we are still trying to get all teachers to script their videos, which takes a lot of time, which you can benefit from a lot when you are in the studio. And still, most teachers don't do that because they don't have time, they indicate. Now, very slowly, this is changing a little bit, but still this is a struggle that we deal with. And also with respect to the video conferences, that also is something, it's a little bit weird. Normally you get feedback from eyes that you can directly look into. And in a video conference, well, if there are camera images, those are really small, there's a sense of distance. So they really had to get used to that. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you.